Hello, and a very warm welcome to today's workshop on personal branding. I'm Rima, and I'm really excited to be here with you today and to be your workshop host. Now, whether you're watching this workshop live in the live version at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday night, or whether you are tuning in later and you are just watching the recording of this video stream, consider yourself to be welcome and heartily welcomed here in this workshop. I have around about an hour of an input for you today for working on personal branding and for developing a compelling message about yourselves. And for this, before I go into the content, what I'd like to do is I'd like to walk you through what you can see on our workshop page so that you can actually make use of the resources that we have compiled for you. So if you take a look at the page on the Grows that this workshop is hosted on, you can see me in the top left corner where you're watching the video stream. And right next to it, there's embedded a second video that we will be using later. Below that, you can see the slides that accompany this workshop, which I will be referring to. And I have page numbers on them. Hopefully they're continuous, and I will be referring to them as well so that you can keep up with what I'm saying. And further down, even in the bottom, you can see a forum entitled Who Am I?, which we will be using later in the workshop. And this is actually an interactive part of the workshop that we will, well, of course, we're working on personal branding. That means we need to figure out how you are, what you have to offer. And for that, we thought it would be helpful if you can write down some answers to the questions I will be raising for yourselves. And below that, even, you can see a forum in which you can add any questions that you may have in detail at any point, of course. And this you can also use to coordinate for meeting up so that you can actually take part in the training, in the sort of the exercises that are accompanying this workshop with another Grow Zonee, so that you can find a partner and team up and really put into practice what you are learning in theory today. And then for a quick introduction, when you don't like writing a whole forum post, then you can see also on the right side of the screen, there is our shout box where you can quickly sign up, sign in, and then you can leave us chat messages, and I'll be looking at the chat in between. And if I that you have anything spontaneous, any comments, you can leave them to me there, and this will make the workshop a bit more entertaining for people who are watching online. So if you're watching online with me on Tuesday night at 8:30, then you can now use this to say hi. I'm gonna shoot you a quick message. Hello, workshop people, ready to rumble. And this is where it pops up, and then you can write me a message as well. And I will be replying to them if you are watching not on Tuesday at 8:30. And unfortunately, we can't use this, but you can still leave us a message in the forum and we'll get back to you. So this is basically everything you need to know about the technology involved. And that now means that I can move over to the actual workshop, to the beef of the story. And for that, of course, please take a look down there at the slides. Let's click over to the second slide. Who are we? Unfortunately, you can see there's only me and not we in this workshop. I already told you, hi, I'm Rima. My colleague Anna-Louise unfortunately isn't here with me today because she is in La Réunion, where she hasn't quite gotten hold of stable internet connection. That's why today it's only me talking to you. I am a psychologist. I'm currently doing my PhD at the Max Planck Institute for Research on Collective Goods. And I'm also one of the project directors at be.boosted. I'm in charge of training and coaching here at be.boosted. And today I will be walking you through what we have to say on personal branding. So if you move on to the next slide, let me show you what I have in store for you today. Basically 3 tidbits, 3 tasty little pieces that you can mostly, and I think most importantly, use for interviews. First of all, we'll do a little bit of identity finding. Then we'll work a little bit on personal branding. And after that, we'll move on to me introducing to you some ideas for practice. So these are the 3 points on the agenda for tonight, basically, for this workshop time that we are having together. So with that, let's jump right in, and let's jump right onto slide number 4 to go into step 1, which is asking, who am I? So what we are doing today is we're trying to formulate a compelling message that may help you, whether it is in an elevator pitch or in a job interview, to make sure that you can communicate what kind of a person you are and what you have to offer. So before we can work on the communication bit, we need to work on finding out who you are, and we kind of need to go and sniff a little bit around and find out who you are and what makes you special. So this is the first step, and this is what we'd like to spend some time on in the beginning of the workshop. And I promise it'll be interactive. So if you look at slide number 5 with a seal of authenticity, I'd like you to take a moment to think with me about one of the core principles that we at Be Boosted try to teach in any workshop that has to do with communication and with interviews and with anything of the like. And what we do is we heavily focus on making sure that you stay you. So despite all the soft skill and education and polishing that you learn, we believe that it's truly important that you stay true to yourself, that you stay authentic, or that you become authentic, because actually we believe it's not really that easy to be super authentic, but sometimes we just slip into a role that we play. Yet being authentic is super important, because if you take a look at slide number 6, of 3 reasons we think why authenticity matters. So first of all, I'm convinced that authenticity matters because imitating ultimately fail. So I mentioned this already. If you play a role, you're basically being an actor all the time. And I don't know about you, but I'm no Angelina Jolie, which is a bit sad. But that means also that I can't act all the time. So if I pretend to be someone who I really am not, then at some point I will fail and my act will crumble. And then it is at this point that my lacking authenticity will be revealed and will make me a little less successful ultimately. So unless you happen to imitate who is a lot like you, imitation will ultimately at some point fail, because there will be a point when you just can't keep up the act. So this is perhaps one of the outcome-oriented reasons why authenticity really is a good idea. A second reason why we think authenticity matters is that it tells a nice story about, or it allows a nice approach to growth. So the idea behind authenticity is that it's okay if you're not good at something, if it is part of who you are. But there is a way for you to still grow and learn it and have it really become a part of yourself. So instead of just acting something out, you can develop something like your leadership, your skill set, and so on and so forth, by learning and by actually integrating new things into yourself that become an authentic part of yourself. Yes. So in a way, not acting, but truly growing is part of authenticity and part of the reason why we at Be Boosted believe authenticity matters. And then let's take a look at the third point why we think authenticity matters. Well, if you stay true to yourself, you will actually be more likely to be successful. Why? Well, because you will pick an environment and tasks and friends and people to interact with that allow for your success, because it matches who you are, it matches what you want. And it'll make it more easy for you to have interactions that are successful, and ultimately, hopefully, also interactions that make you content and happy. So 3 reasons why authenticity matters, and why we at Be Boosted truly believe in this. So even though we're in a workshop on personal branding, what I will not tell you about is how to package anything that you have to say about yourself in such a way that you're guaranteed to get every job. I'm not going to tell you how to act your way into a job. But this workshop really is about finding out who you are, and then looking at how can you communicate this part of your story in a useful way, and then some practice into this. So this is what the workshop is about again, but now more authenticity. And let's take a look about on authenticity, but more from a skill perspective on slide number 7. So if you think about leadership, which is something that I believe the Be Boosted fellows and Ozonees are, of course, doing a lot. And sometimes you start wondering if, as a leader, to be authentic wouldn't also mean that you should be able to do everything, or that you should be an all-rounder. And indeed, there's an interesting study from McKinsey where they correlated performance of leaders in 8 dimensions with company performance. And the interesting part of this is that an all-around leader, so someone who's decently good at things like customer impact, and she's good at leadership, and maybe she's good at change leadership, and they're all these pieces of the pie are kind of the same size-ish. They're all great, but none of them stands out. These leaders actually turn up, so the average stays average, basically. And one more encouraging word for being authentic is the results of a study, which you can see on slide number 8, which is indeed that the best leaders are spiky. So if you have a certain strength in your portfolio, something that really makes you stand out, whereas the other skills that you have are kind of average, or usually quite things, but they're not really standing out, but you have this one thing that you're really amazingly good at, those are the kind of people that are the most successful. So, and they drive up company results and company performance. Meaning, and in the last attempt to really encourage you to be authentic, it's actually great to have a specific strength. It is useful to stand by this spike, and you don't have to be this kind of smooth personality to be successful, but you can be edgy if this is part of who you are. And you can be edgy in the sense that you can be authentic the way you are with your strengths. So what does it mean to be authentic and to lead authentically? And what is a message that you could send about yourself if you're looking for a job, or just generally to find out who you are and what you have to offer? Well, for that, we need to ask a couple of questions. And to ask these questions is something that, of course, often happens in job interviews. So to give you a little idea, because, of course, now you're not in a job interview, you're probably sitting at home watching this workshop. To give you an idea of what it might be like, I'd like to take a quick look at the video, which is right next to the video stream of this workshop that you're watching. So the video from the Nanny Diary is actually about a scene where Annie Braddock is being interviewed. And I'll just be quiet a little bit. I'll give you a little bit of time to watch this now. All right, welcome back. So there are several reasons why I love this sequence from the Nanny Diaries to kind of start the conversation about personal branding, is that you can clearly see that as the nanny is being asked this classical interview question, tell me, who is Annie Braddock? First of all, she chokes up, and then she doesn't really know what to do. And then her training kicks in, her soft skill training, and she rephrases from Annie Braddock is a kind person to I am. And she formulates a clear I message, which of course is fantastic in the sense of communication and makes her statement so much stronger. So her communication teachers, of course, are obviously amazing, but then she has nothing to follow it up on with. There's no content there. And this is, of course, what we want to make sure it doesn't happen to you. So for the next couple of minutes, what I want to do with you is to make sure that you have the beginning of an answer to the question, who is, fill in your name here. So I don't think that we can find a successful and complete and holistic picture of who you are just now, but we can get, and that's what I'd like to do with you. And for that, what I'd like you to do is to go to the bottom of the page, all the way to the bottom, to the form that says, who am I? And there, actually, you can follow me along for the next slides on the workshop and enter your own answers to the question, who am I, and the sub-questions that I will be answering. So the neat thing about this form is that if you leave your name and your email address, it'll automatically, after you have filled in the information, it'll automatically send this to you via email so that you have it in your inbox as this friendly reminder of what you are like. And I promise, of course, not to use your email address for anything else other than to send you this information. So if you want to make your life easy, you can just fill in the information there. If you want to make your life a little bit harder, or if you are in love with analogous and non-digital versions of doing these kinds of things, just grab a piece of paper and do this along with me. So the first question that I will ask you in the hunt for an answer to the question of who are you really, who am I? The first question will be to talk about your strengths and weaknesses. Because, of course, this sounds like another typical interview question. But what we'd like to do here, what I want you to do, is to really give an honest answer and to start making an approach towards authenticity and to really think about privately, of course, what makes me strong? Start with the strength. What is my spike? What is the stuff that I'm good at and that could lead me to be more successful than others, that could lead me to be a successful contributor to a community goal? Who am I in the sense that what makes me strong, right? Where are the guns? What am I good at doing? So take some time to find out, to reflect on what is it that you are amazing at doing. Is it that you can lift a truck with your pinky finger? Is it that you write the best essays in the entire world and rhetorics are just amazing? What is it that you are really good at and that you're also proud of? Take a second to think about this. All right, I know this is a superbly difficult question, especially because you don't, sometimes it might feel like you're praising yourself too much, but in this instance, we were just looking for an honest assessment of your 3 core strengths, the 3 things that you are really good at. And if you haven't come up with anything now, you can come back to the question later, of course. And for now, let's move on to the next question, which is about your weaknesses. So, of course, to understand who you are, it helps to understand what makes you amazing. But it also helps to understand what you still have potential to work on. Things that you are not incredibly successful on yet, that you personally perceive as a weakness. For instance, maybe you really to buy chocolate and you cannot focus if there is just some chocolate sitting next to you, and then your work is completely not possible for you. Or I don't have more silly examples for weaknesses currently, I'm sorry. So we'll just go with a chocolate one. So this is, as a weakness, if you embrace it, first of all, realize it and then embrace it, there's some diagnostic value about what kind of a person you are in this. And also there's an opportunity for you in there. There's an opportunity for you to bring that weakness, the skill that has to do with that weakness, up a notch so that it'll be on a level with all the other things that you can do, that are kind of your average skills that aren't standing out in particular, that are not a weakness for you. So basically what we would be looking into is strengths as kind of your spikes, the things that make you really awesome, and weaknesses as opportunities to kind of level out so that you can get a more rounded skill set going on. So for that, of course, we need to first find out what your weaknesses might be. And for that, I'm again going to be a little bit quiet for a second and let you think and reflect on 3 weaknesses, or put differently, 3 opportunities for more growth. Okay, fantastic. When you have your three strengths and weaknesses together now, we can move on. If you're not quite done yet, again, you can come back to this question anytime. The form will stay there. Your piece of paper, if you're using that, will stay there. So together, let's move on to the next question. If you need more time to reflect on this, just come back to it after the workshop. Mm. So my next point that I want to raise your awareness on is the question, what makes you get up in the morning? And this is an interesting question because the answer to this makes it more likely that you can actually start seeking out an environment where you can find these that make you get up in the morning, where you can find the things that drive you and that interest you, that hook your attention, and that make a day worthwhile. So spending a little bit of time on identifying what makes you get up and when you can just, come out of bed and be there on time and be really enthusiastic about what you do. Identifying these things makes it easier, of course, to seek them out and to make clear that what your priorities are, for instance, in a job. So going personal here, what I can tell you makes me get up is people. A day that I spend without any communication with anyone is to me just a lost day. So any job that I have or any occupation that I have or any hobby that usually has to do with people. I seek out situations where I have people where I can communicate, I can meet new people, I can share ideas, I can meet new ideas and new types of communication, new types of just people. So this is what's important to me. For you, it might be completely different. For you, it might be saying that what gets you up in the morning really is coffee. And you are absolutely in a need for a job that makes it possible for you to sleep in and have this kind of the owl style type of life cycle. And you need some flexibility in this job. And only if you have this flexibility and the option to read a newspaper in the morning and drink a nice cup of coffee, only if you have this, then you can be happy about your job and get up in the morning. So there are really tons of different answers that you could give this question. And of course, it's important that you find out what your answer is. So I will be quiet again for a couple of minutes and let you take a first attempt at answering the question up in the morning. All right, workshop people, so much for the first attempt at finding out what makes you get up in the morning. Again, if you're not quite done with this, you can either pause the video or just come back to it later. So now that we know what makes you get up, the next question that I have for you is, what makes you unique? What makes you that special snowflake? And which kind of combination of things would you say is it that really tell us who you are? So again, this can be really anything that you can come up with. Maybe your personal goal in life is to be the kindest person in your group of friends, and this is really what motivates you, and this is really what makes you unique also because you are so much friendlier and nicer than anyone you know. It could really be any sort of outlook on life that you have, any goal, any specific skill, anything that makes you unique and different from others. And I'm looking specifically for three so that we can really make sure that in this combination, there's only you. So how do you describe yourself as a special snowflake in the best possible meaning of the word? What makes you unique? Take a couple of minutes to think about this, write it down, and then we can move on to the next question. Okay, fantastic. So I hope you had a moment to start thinking about what makes you a special snowflake. And if you haven't quite finished with this, you're more than welcome to pause the video or to just come back to this later. While now what we'd like to do is to ask you the last question in our little identity finder exercise. And the question that I have for last is one that doesn't deal so much with the internal point of view that you have, because so far I asked you, what do you think about yourself? Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask you what you think other people think. And to make this less complicated, I have a really fun question for you, which is if you were to retire tomorrow and you are, just imagine that this is happening, or it might be that you are changing jobs or you're moving on to a different university or something like this. So if you were to retire or anything like that tomorrow, and today you were having a goodbye party, what would people say when they give a speech about how great you were? So what do people say about you in your retirement speech? Take a bit of time to answer this question, which mostly is focused, of course, on what you think other people think about you, and a benevolent kind of view of this external perspective. So I'm going to be quiet again for a couple of seconds and let you get a shot at answering this question. All right, fantastic. So I hope you had fun with this question. And this is actually the last one in our identity finder part of this workshop. So if you are done with all questions in the questionnaire, you can just hit the send button, and then you will conveniently find the answers to your question in your inbox, I hope, if the form really works. But I did test it, so it should work. Just a quick summary why we did this. So basically what we did so far is to try to find out who you are, how you are, what do you like, these kinds of things. And what we'll do now is we'll look a little bit about into the topic of how can we talk about it. We did now we have content that in the original video, Annie Braddock, the nanny, was missing. So now we're looking a little bit more into the other direction of how can we wrap it, how can we brand you so that you have something to say, for instance, in that job interview. And if you move with me on slide number 15, in between, you didn't miss much, I promise. There were just pictures that are illustrating the questions that I asked you. If you can look at them in between. It's absolutely fine, you didn't have to follow these, but now let's move on to slide number 15, where I quickly want to raise your attention to the myth of the 7%. So what do I mean by that? There's the myth that the content of what you have to say only counts 7% to the kind of the image that people have of you, and the other 93% are determined by the wrapping. And by wrapping, we really mean everything from the way that you dress, to the way your body language works, to the way you phrase the things that you say. And there's this myth out there, especially in the world of interview training, and this is something that I quickly want to sort of dissuade a little bit, or at least not encourage in this workshop, because there is a reason why we spend so much time on finding out who you are, and why I would encourage you to do this in more depth as the workshop is done already, and just on the journey of your life. It is because, well, this myth is simply not true. What you have to say, the content of the things that you were saying, of course they matter more than 7%. So if you have nothing to say and only pretty wrapping, you're not going to get very far. Even if it is only because of the authenticity argumentation that I introduced to you earlier. So, but now that you are good on the content, let's still take a look at the wrapping, right? Because, I mean, content is not really worth 100% in the image that other people get of you. It's important, and seriously more important than 7%, but it's not everything. So in the next part, in part 2 of this workshop, let's take a look at the wrapping. And for this, on slide number 16, we found this incredibly hilarious photo series of the worst interview advice that you could potentially ever get. So in the next slides, you will see pictures that have messages on them that we want you to understand sarcastically, please. And our message up there in red is the one that we don't want you to take sarcastically. So when you are in an interview or in any kind of situation where you need to sell yourself and to kind of brand who you are, it's important not to overreact. So don't go for something like, remember, every question is a test. So when an interviewer says, how are you, you need to reply goal-oriented, thank you. This is really, there's too much buzzwording in there. But it is important that you make sure that whatever you have to say, the content that you did find out about yourself, you can phrase in a way that's really to the point. And if there are buzzwords in there that you can ring and that you can honestly ring, because you can you can back them up with your life story, with your learning history, with your skill set, then go for them. Make sure that there is a very succinct way that you phrase who you are, how you are, and what you have to offer. So there is a really nice tool that might be helpful for you to achieve this. And if you weren't a big fan of the questions I asked you so far, and you would prefer a more businessy type of approach rather than the psychology approach that I just offered you, there's this interesting thing called the Business Model U by Tim Clark, which you can see on slide 17, which will help you to show a clear proposition of what you have to offer. So when I say before that, if you have a buzzword, then go for it. This might be one of them. So say something like, I have a personal business plan, and here's what I have to offer. This might be helpful to actually make this happen. So how this works is basically on one A4 sheet of paper, Tim Clark asks you some questions that help define your business plan as an individual. And he asks you questions such as how you help, which value you provide, for instance, and what you do, which key activities it is that you carry out. And this helps you put together a really clearly formulated view of what you have to offer for a specific job. So for my last job interview, I did this, and it amazingly, it really did help me. So this is a personal recommendation of mine. Check this out, and it might help you to precisely formulate and have a clear proposition of what you have to offer. If you take a look at slide number 18, one more piece of advice that we have for branding yourself, for instance, in a job interview, is to make sure to relate facts to the person. And we're not looking for superficial relations here, such as you're not an applicant, but an applicant. Of course, again, take this sarcastically. But what in truth we are looking for is making sure that you don't only tell us where you did this amazing internship, but to relate it to the person, to make sure to tell us why you did this, what got you up in the morning, what you learned there, what maybe wasn't a good experience, and how you overcame obstacles, how you worked in a team, how to make sure to go into detail and to make your conversation personal, to make it matter to you, which then makes it much easier to make it also matter to the other person that you're speaking with. So this is actually nicely relating me to slide number 19, if you want to move on. So not only making things matter to you, but to the other person. How do I make sure that the other person is interested in what I'm saying? Well, one easy way to, or maybe not easy, but one straightforward way to do this is to offer a perspective for joint growth. So in your formulation and your branding of who you are and what you have to offer, make sure to also include some thought on how the way that you will go can include not only you, but also the other person involved in the discussion, whether it will be the interviewer or the company you're interviewing with, or just someone you were trying to get genuinely interested in a topic that you care about. So perspective for growing together is something that we find helpful in branding who you are. And last and very much not least, what we'd like to point out is that you need to make sure that your message goes through. So if you are being subtle, as suggested in the sarcastic picture below, and you just tap a message in Morse code, chances are this will not go through. So before I demanded from you that you precisely formulate who you are and what propositions you have. Precisely formulating is not enough, but you need to make sure that they are communicated well. And if you think you need a brush up on that, what I would suggest that you do is to actually hop back to the workshop on effective communication from last month and take a look at our suggestions about communicating effectively and making sure that the message can actually go through to the receiver of your message. So there we go. And this is basically the idea of personal branding that we'd like to share with you. So in sum, for this step 2 of talking about the wrapping, if I had to say it in one word, it would be precision. So be precise with what you have to offer. You already know kind of what your brand is about. Now this part is about thinking how to sell it. And for that, communication geniuses like you, of course, have an easy time, but you need more brush up. And then hop back to last month's workshop for this. Okay. So with this little bit of advice on how to brand yourself for instance for a job interview, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to move on to step number 3. And step number 3 you can find on slide number 21, which is practice, practice, practice. So I will spend a couple of minutes explaining to you what we have in mind for you this month to practice branding yourself and telling a convincing message about who you are, how you are, and what you have to offer. And this exercise we call building mini businesses. Now let me explain how it works. For this, you will need around about 45 minutes, and you will need a partner. So my suggestion is that as I speak now, you just go down there in the forum on the workshop page and you check out if someone's available to do this exercise with you. You need one partner to do this, so a group of 2, and then you can build a mini business. So set up a meeting, and then what I'd like you to do is to imagine that you want to start a business together with your partner. And really, it doesn't matter if the 2 of you knew each other before. This is absolutely not the point of this exercise. In contrast, I think it would be really fascinating to get to know someone new in the grow zone here. So imagine that you want to start a business with your partner. What I'd like you to do is to put your heads together and find out what you are like as a team and which business would suit you best. So basically, this is an exercise about finding out the strengths that you have and the uniquenesses that you have. If you take them together with the strengths and unique points of your partner, and then put it together and then mix it, and sprinkle in a little bit of creativity, then what comes out of it? What kind of a business comes out of this unlikely grouping? And I hear the most fun business propositions in this exercise, believe me. So this is going to be a really fun exercise. Yes. So come up with an idea, any idea for a startup that you could make happen. It doesn't need to be realistic at all. We are not interested in finances here. What we want to know, though, is who is responsible for what in your business. So between your partner and you, who is contributing what to the success of this business, and why? So this is one of the questions I'd like you to answer. And the second thing I'd like you to do is to come up with a catchy slogan and a catchy, basically, proposition, a name and a slogan of what your business is going to do. So this is the branding part, the wrapping. And then last but very much not least, make some use of it, of course. We'd like you to put together your basic business idea plus a title and a slogan that you developed before, and the roles that you and your partner will play as a pitch in 5 or 6 sentences. It's not a big deal, just a very short paragraph. And share this on the Grow Zone. Best of all, just down here on the workshop page, all the way to the bottom in the forum. Show us what your mini business would be. And I'm really excited to see all the amazing ideas that will come out of this. And of course, the point of the exercise is to see, excitingly, what amazing things you can make happen, or at least start to make happen, with just 2 people mixed together, some creativity involved. And some content, then of course spending some time on the wrapping. So in 45 minutes, you can achieve a lot, and this is part of what I'd like you to see and to realize that next time when you go into an elevator pitch or an interview, if you have done this workshop and you actually spend some time reflecting on who you are, how you are, what you have to offer, and how to wrap it, then you will have a really good shot at making something exciting happen, something that's equally as exciting or even more exciting as the many businesses that you are about to come up with. So again, go down there in the forum, go find a partner, make this happen. It's a really fun task, and then share with us what came out of it. So this is the exercise, and just to basically wrap up, this exercise brings us to the end of this workshop today. I'm going to take a quick look at the chat and see if there are any questions that popped up in between, or if you look like you're all happy and fine and dandy and everything was clear anyway. So let me take a look. All right, this is pretty clear. It looks like everyone is quite happy with my explanations. It looks like everyone is quite happy with how I explained the exercise. So that means it's time for a quick wrap up with, of course, the help of Wrap Up Dog on the last slide, my personally favorite image in the entire presentation. So what did we do today? We started off by dedicating a lot of time really into building the content for your personal brand, into sniffing out what you are like, who you are, what gets you going. And this is a point that I'd like to encourage you to pursue farther, more, and in depth. Because, as I said before, we at Be Boosted, and I personally believe that finding out who you are and building your authenticity will make it much more likely that you will find success and comfort in the things that you're doing. So I think it's really worthwhile to invest some time into this. And of course, as you grow and as you develop, things change. So just because you did this exercise once doesn't mean that you're done with this for the rest of your life. But I would encourage you to also think about ways that you can stay up to date with yourself and check in every now and then and just see if you're still aware of who you are. So step one we did was building the content. And step two, we looked a little bit into phrasing and the wrapping and ideas for, or at least demands that should be met for a communication of your brand. And again, I encourage you for effective communication to again hop back to last month's workshop and get some more ideas there. Yes, so this was the second part, looking at the wrapping. And now in the third part, I explained to you the exercise which is to come up with a mini business to hypothetically start with your partner. So, and with that, we hope that you have a start to think about ways to produce a compelling message about yourself that will make it easier for you to be successful in anything from an elevator pitch all the way over to an interview. So this is all that I have for you tonight. Thank you for being here. I hope that you did learn a lot today. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to put them in the forum or to reach out via email to me. It was a huge pleasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing you for the team coaching in weeks, or of course for next month's workshop. And with that, I will be out. Bye-bye.